Welcome to Using the Roud Index's brief introductory guide, brought to you by the Traditional Song Forum. Now there are 5 other video tutorials about my indexes where we take a more leisurely but more detailed look at the features of the indexes, but this one is a brief scamper through just for those who want that, but if you don't understand anything or want further information, please go to the other tutorials. Now, there's 3 ways of accessing my indexes. The first one is online at the Vaughan Williams Memorial Library website, vwml.org. Now, the Vaughan Williams Library site very kindly hosts my indexes. I certainly couldn't have done all of this without their help over the last 20 years or so. And their site includes a lot of other material as well as my material. But I'm only going to be talking about my indexes. But remember, there's a lot more to the VWML than my stuff. Second way is for home use. You can download the data and use it in any format you like, in a spreadsheet or a database program, and that's for what I would call the super users, the ones who want to do detailed research and manipulate the data in their own way. And then the third way is part of the US-based Traditional Ballad Index. You can go to their site on the address given there, but I won't talk any more about that because they will be doing their own promotional videos in this series. There are actually 2 indexes of mine that we're talking about here, the Folk Song Index and the Broadside Index. We can't go into lots of detail here, but the Folk Song Index includes songs where there is evidence that they were traditional. That means sung by ordinary people in their everyday lives and passed on one to another. And the Broadside Index includes songs that were printed on cheap print, like called street literature, broadsides, chapbooks, and other song materials. So they may be folk songs, they may not. It doesn't matter for the Broadside Index. It's worth remembering that the 2 indexes are designed to work together and separately. And we'll be looking at how to access the 2 in a moment. The indexes are multimedia in that I index songs in any form that I find them, so books and journals definitely, but also LPs and CDs and newspapers and so on, and unpublished material. To be included, a song has to be in English. You can't index something you don't understand. But it can come from anywhere in the world, in effect the English-speaking world. So Britain and Ireland, USA, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, West Indies, all of that can go in. But as I say, only in English. I only do songs. I don't do instrumental music or dance music. They need a very different approach than the songs do. But I interpret songs quite widely in that a children's game with sung element or recited element, that can go in. Recitations, because they are metrical, because they could be sung, then they go in as well. The whole thing is primarily text-based rather than music-based. So when I'm comparing songs, saying this is the same song, this is a different song, I take no notice, and I have to keep stressing this, no notice of the music at all, because folk song texts can be and are sung to a wide variety of tunes. So the music doesn't count when it comes to these indexes. But I will note when the music is present. I'll say this book has the music in it, but that's the best I can do. And most controversially, I only index traditional songs, not revival. Now again, we can't go into the definitions here, but that means that songs where there's evidence, as we've already said, that ordinary people singing these songs in their everyday lives, then that makes them a folk song. It's not the origin of a song that makes it a folk song. It's the fact that it's been used, found in traditional forms. So I don't do revival songs or performances. However good they may be, they are covered in other indexes, but not here. Right, so here we are at the Vaughan Williams Memorial Library website, the place that hosts my indexes. And the first thing to remember, and this is very important, if you only want to search my indexes alone and not the rest of the site, then you have to click here, search the Roud indexes only. Otherwise, you'll be searching all of their catalogues and indexes at the same time. You may want that, or you might not. But all I'm talking about here is how to use my indexes, so you must click there. Now, I'm going to show you what the thing looks like. I'll have to do a little search to do it. I haven't taught you how to search yet, so take no notice of that. But what you've got here is, I just quickly searched for Alfred Williams's book, Folk Songs of the Upper Thames. And depending on your screen, you've either got 1, 2 or 3 records, as these are called, or entries, and each one is for a different song within that book. Now, if you can only see 1 or 2 because you've got a smaller screen, you can of course scroll through and in effect scroll through the whole book song by song. Now, before I get on to what's shown here, I'll explain that you can show the data in 3 different ways. This is called a full record. Each one of these entries is a record. And this is the default. This is what you get if you don't click on anything else. But you can, if you want to, present the data as a list with just the key fields, or you can show it as a map. Now I'll show you that in a moment because I haven't got anything to show you on the map yet properly. So that's the first thing to remember, is that the display format can be changed: map, list or full record. The second thing to say before we look at the other data is about the Roud numbers, and that's in this bit, in this field here. The real problem with indexing and identifying folk songs, traditional songs, is that their titles are unstable or downright slippery. The same song can have quite literally dozens of titles and spellings, and the same title can be for lots of completely different songs. So the title itself is not good for searching or for identifying things. So what I've done is I've given numbers to songs. So the song called The Gypsy Laddie or Raggle Taggle Gypsies, etc., etc., is number 1 in my scheme. And if I want all the versions of that particular song, I just search for Roud number 1 and it pulls them all together, whatever their title, whatever tune it's to. Number 1 would get that song. Now, it's more complicated than that, but that's the basis to it all. And it means that we can, literally at the click of a button, pull together all the versions of a particular song. Now, that's what I'm going to do first, just to show you how that works. This entry here for Brian O'Lynn, as sung by John Puffett, it's got here the Roud number 294. So that's the number for all the Brian O'Lynn songs, however spelt, however titled. So if I clicked on it, it has brought together all the Brian O'Lynn's, and you see that the first 2 come up are actually called Tommy Lynn, and even the Lynn is spelt differently. Now this is where I can show you the map, because at any given time you can plot your search on the map and it will show you where the versions have been collected. Now, I won't go into detail about this. I hope they will on the Vaughan Williams Memorial Library tutorials, because it's a very powerful tool and very useful. You can go in, you can obviously zoom in on the map and look at it more detail. It takes a while for them all to come up, so we won't linger on that much longer, but you can see that Brian O'Lynn is not only a pretty popular song, but was collected all over England, and if I move up, and then we start getting the Scottish and Ireland, not only a popular song, but a widespread one. So I'm just going to go back to the entries for the for Alfred Williams's book. So, looking at Brian O'Lynn again, each of these boxes is called a field, and each one contains data for a particular type of data, as to a particular category. So the title, as we've shown, is up there. Now you can actually click on the title to do a search for all the Brian O'Lynns, but as we've said, that doesn't really help much because it won't find the Tommy Lynns. The first line there, title and first line together are a good way of identifying a song, because first lines are actually more stable than titles. Other numbers, laws and child numbers, the source is the book in this case. That could be a record, it could be anything else. John Puffett was the performer, and the place the song was collected was in Lechlade. That's a live link, so you can click on that and see the map, see the area around Lechlade. We're not really, but there it says place there, place collected is what we mean. And when we say that, we don't really mean place recorded, because this, John Puffett might have been on holiday in Lechlade, and he might actually have been a Scottish singer. So we are more interested in where the singer and therefore the song came from, where John Puffett was living, rather than where he was recorded. Name of the collector, the date collected. We don't know exactly in this case, but if we do, it would be in there. The format of the item, so in this case it's a book, but it could say that it's a sound recording, or a broadside, or a DVD. Source contents, if there's a text, we'll say so. If there's music, that means the written music. If that's there, we'll say so. If it's an audio file, we'll say it there. So all of these fields can be searched. If we've typed the thing in, you can search it. So you can say, I want Roud 294 in Gloucester, but I only want ones with the music. Now you'll find out how to do that in a while, but that's the thing to hold in your mind now, is that if in a database, if we've typed it in, you can search for it. If we haven't typed it in, you can't. Now there are many other fields with other information. Now these are blank because most of those are to do with broadsides. So if this was an entry for a broadside, most of this section up here about the singer and stuff wouldn't be there. It would be blank, but the things down here would be filled in. Things like the named tune, because broadsides often say sung to the tune of. The printer and the publisher. That's very important for dating broadsides. The author of the song, if we know it, and so on. So there's various things hidden down there. But then there's two other things before we go on to searching that we have to look at. One of them is this media items. Now by that we mean embedded either images or audio sound files that you can actually just click on and use. Now there's lots of those in my indexes, and there's tens of thousands more on the Vaughan Williams site. But basically it's saying that rather than telling you to go and find Alfred Williams's folk songs of the Upper Thames, we've actually scanned in the book, so you can see it here. We can only do that if it's out of copyright or we've got permission. So Brian O'Lynn can be clicked upon, and there he is. And the second page, and in fact you can go through the whole book, in this case scanning along, going along the bottom there. So that's what happens if we've scanned in the image. The same thing happens if we've embedded an audio file. You just click there and the audio file plays for you. Now I've just called up another record just to show you another feature. This is from the Irish Traditional Music Archive collection. So this is an unpublished sound recording. Well, unpublished except that it's now available online. And the point here is that increasingly things are available online. So using my indexes as a hub or a portal, you can find out what's on other people's websites and go straight to them. Sometimes I am indexing other people's indexes because that's the way to bring all the information together in one place. Now there's a field right at the bottom called external URL, and that is the link to the entry on the Irish Traditional Music Archive site, and you can play the song Grace Toland singing As I Rode Out just by clicking there. I won't play it because it gets feedback on my microphone. It's worth remembering this URL field because increasingly I can put in a link like that. In fact, way over 50,000 entries now have the URL link. So always look down the bottom to see if the URL is there, because that'll save you an awful lot of trouble. And hopefully in the future we can move that field up a bit so that it's a bit more obvious. So we've been through the fields and the displays now. It only remains to tell you how to actually find the things you're looking for. So don't forget to click on Search the Roud Indexes Only. Now you can do two sorts of searches. One is a simple search, which is this box at the top here. Take no notice of the other stuff that's just appeared. And here, like any Google type search, you can just put in words. You can put in a single word, put in multiple words. Now don't forget, this is searching the broadside and the folk song index both at the same time by default. Now I've just typed in Jolly Fellows because there are songs with Jolly Fellows in the title, and I've come up with 445 hits. Now that's a simple and easy way of searching, but it's not very efficient or effective unless you're searching for something that is quite unique or uncommon, because it's searching all the fields. So it's not just searching the title, which is probably what you were thinking when you typed that in. It's searching all Jolly Fellows, Jolly Fellows in all of the fields. Now that might be okay for you, or it might be too broad. If I just typed in Fellows, for instance, it would have picked up a person's name called Fellows. It would have picked up a place name if there was one called Fellows. So the quick search is quick and dirty, as it were, but sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You can be more specific. If I was searching for Wild Rover title, I could put Wild Rover in inverted commas. Remember that, inverted commas. Now it will search as a phrase rather than as two separate keywords. So if I do that, it will find Wild Rover, but again that's searching all the fields, so it would find a book called Wild Rover and other greatest hits. So again, you're not specifying enough to be really sure of what you're going to get. Now there's two other things you can do in this search box up in the simple search. You can do truncation, which means if you're interested in things to do with farming, you can put farm asterisk, and that'll find farm, farms, farmer, farmers, farming, farm worker, farmland. In other words, anything to do, anything starting with the letters farm. And it'll find it anywhere in the records. So in the titles, first lines, again it'll pick up an author or a singer called Farmer. But that's a good way of doing a search if you're not clear how things are spelt or what words are being used. You should remember the truncation because it can be very useful. But the real problem with this simple search is that you can't specify the field that you want the data to be in. You can't say, I want Wild Rover in the title. Well, actually you can. All the fields have an underlying code, a 2-letter code. So I could say RN 558, and that would find me Roud number 558. So it will look for 558 just in the Roud number field. And there it is. That's the Foggy Dew. Now, even more importantly, 558 is fairly uncommon, but something like 1974, if I just typed in 1974, it would find me everything published or collected in 1974. But this way I'm specifying it's a Roud number, not a date. So I can do Roud number 1974. Now you can do this with all the main fields, and that's the list of codes there. So again, pause the video if you want to write them down. But you can put in TT for title, FL for first line, and so on. And you can mix and match them here. So I could say RN 558 and PL, which is place, Norfolk. Notice the AND is in capitals. There's no space between RN and the 558 or PL and the Norfolk. So this should find me Foggy Dew collected in Norfolk. Yep, there we go. I could, if I wanted to, I could say Foggy Dew, but not the ones in Norfolk. Or I could say RN and Foggy Dew in Norfolk or PL Suffolk. So these are called Boolean operators. You can do and, or not. Gets a bit complicated if you do more than two actually, and you have to get them in the right order, but you can do that, and it is, again, it's a quick way of doing it in the simple search box. But if you're thinking of doing this kind of research, or this kind of search, which means you're putting in more than one criteria, then you really should be using the advanced search. So let's go to the advanced search. Because here, take no notice of the left hand side for now, here you can say which fields you want, and it's a lot easier than remembering the codes. So I could say Roud number 558 and just tell it to go. I can add another one, place equals Norfolk, or 558 not place equals Norfolk. And if I did or in this case, it would find me all the 558s and all the Norfolks, so that wouldn't be much help. But this is the way that you can do complicated searches to your heart's content. If you want to clear all of this, you can click on the minus or click on the bin. And there's a couple of other things you can do in advanced search. You can search for only those records which have digital media. In other words, the ones that have those embedded images or sound files. That's fine, but that doesn't at the moment include all those URL links. And as I've said, there's 50 or 1,000 of those. And really, the URL links are just the same as the embedded files. The material is there for you at the click of a button. So I don't recommend using that at the moment because it cuts out a lot of the really good connections. Use it if you just want to, to find the text of a song or an audio file quickly, but at the moment it doesn't work to your advantage. The other thing you can do at this stage, and this is very useful, is that you can sort. You can order your results by title or place or performer or Roud number. That's very useful if you've got a variety of hits and want to sort them into a particular order to find them properly. So that's the end of the brief introductory guide, which wasn't nearly as brief as I thought it was going to be. But if you've been tempted to use the indexes by viewing this, and if you are tempted to go on to the other videos, then we will have achieved our purpose. And I hope you find our indexes and our tutorials useful in the future. Goodbye.